broken together. Why individual healing can't fix collective trauma. I want to begin today by acknowledging someone whose wisdom has profoundly transformed how I understand healing, community, and restoration. Tracie Chandler is not just a visionary leader in community healing. She is a revolutionary force who has shattered conventional paradigms about wellness and restoration in marginalized communities. Through her groundbreaking work, she has created safe harbors where thousands have found not just healing, but reclaimed their power to heal others. When the world said medicate the individual, Tracie boldly proclaimed restore the community. Her courage to speak truth in spaces of power has literally saved lives and transformed entire neighborhoods from places of despair to bastions of hope and collective action. My conversation with Tracie left me fundamentally changed, and it's her revolutionary insight that forms the heartbeat of everything I want to share with you today. We live in a culture obsessed with individual solutions to collective problems. Dot, comma, comma. Think about it. We're told to practice self care when facing burnout from systems designed to exhaust us. We're encouraged to develop resilience rather than questioning why we must constantly recover from preventable harm. We celebrate the rare individual who overcomes the odds rather than asking why the odds are stacked against so many in the first place. This hyper individualism has infiltrated even our approaches to healing. But what if this deeply entrenched belief is not just incomplete, but actively harmful? What if our obsession with individual healing is actually preventing us from addressing the root causes of our collective pain? This is the disruptive idea I want to explore with you today. True restoration, whether of our communities, our families, or ourselves, cannot happen in isolation. It requires collective action, shared responsibility, and a return to something we've largely abandoned in our professional and entrepreneurial spaces: spiritual connection and communal compassion. As Tracie Chandler so powerfully articulated, true restoration, whether it involves family, finances, or personal well being, begins with honestly naming what is broken and coming together in truth and unity. This insight challenges everything we think we know about healing and progress, especially for Black professionals and entrepreneurs who often face unique barriers to both. The truth is, we've created artificial boundaries between our professional lives and our spiritual selves, between our business practices and our capacity for love, between our entrepreneurial ventures and our need for community care. And these divisions are killing us, sometimes literally. Let me share three revolutionary insights from my conversation with Tracie that illuminate a different path forward. First, healing requires collective responsibility. When we address pain as a community, not just as individuals, we create spaces where everyone feels safe bringing their whole selves. The burden of transformation doesn't rest solely on the shoulders of those who are suffering. It becomes a shared commitment to growth and change. Second, cultural relevance matters profoundly. Solutions that work are those that reflect who we are, our culture, our values, our spirituality, and our lived experience. Generic approaches that ignore the specific context of our communities often fail precisely because they don't speak to our unique realities. And third, leadership means lifting others. When you empower others through mentorship or by sharing your journey from trauma toward healing, you create ripples of hope that uplift entire communities. True leadership isn't about individual achievement, it's about creating pathways for collective advancement. These insights might sound simple, but they run counter to nearly everything our individualistic society teaches us about success and healing. To understand their transformative power, let me share how they've been applied in real communities facing real challenges. In Oakland, a revolutionary approach to healthcare is unfolding. The Freedom Community Clinic bridges Western medicine with holistic healing traditions in Black, Brown, and immigrant communities. When they first opened their doors, they faced significant challenges. Most potential clients had never accessed holistic health services before, and there was overwhelming demand due to a profound lack of culturally relevant care. Their response wasn't to import outside experts or impose standardized solutions. Instead, they hired leaders from within the community itself, building a team that reflected those they served, and launched apprenticeship programs so local residents could become practitioners themselves. The results: 80% of their clients were new to holistic care. 60% reported decreased stress and anxiety. 75% adopted new wellness practices into their daily lives. But the most powerful aspect wasn't just the services provided, it was their fundamental approach. Founded by women of color who saw traditional healthcare failing their families, they built trust through representation at every level. They created a sustainable model where healed individuals become healers themselves, transforming access to healthcare while restoring cultural pride and collective agency. This is what true collective healing looks like. It's not just about addressing individual symptoms, it's about restoring broken systems through community centered approaches. Consider another powerful example: the Kindred Southern Healing Justice Collective in New York City. This organization provides training on healing justice frameworks for queer BIPOC communities facing compounded trauma from identity based oppression. They recognize that conventional therapy often failed these groups due to a lack of cultural competence, while systemic oppression simultaneously increased their mental health challenges. Rather than forcing community members into existing structures that weren't designed for them, Kindred offered group support rooted in collective care models alongside individual therapy sessions, using trauma informed approaches tailored specifically for BIPOC identities. Participants learn self care strategies while building supportive networks within their own cultures. Their resilience increased across the board. Formed by activists recognizing gaps left by mainstream mental health systems, Kindred prioritized intersectionality at every step, becoming a trusted resource hub empowering marginalized voices toward both activism and emotional well being. Through truth telling circles and mutual aid, they helped community members reclaim joy amid adversity, showing how speaking truth leads not only to personal freedom, but also to communal restoration. The ancient wisdom of Ecclesiastes reminds us two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can help the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. This wisdom aligns perfectly with what Tracie Chandler advocates. Redemption isn't just an individual journey, it requires us all to show up for one another with love and awareness. A third powerful example comes from the Black Men Healing Platform, a wellness initiative designed specifically for Black men seeking emotional growth while breaking the stigma around vulnerability. The challenges they faced were significant. Stigma around mental health led many men, including successful professionals, to suffer silently without support networks or resources tailored for them. Their solution? They created online groups focused on holistic self care practices, including storytelling circles where members could share openly about loss and trauma without judgment. Members reported feeling seen and heard for the first time, an experience so powerful that several participants eventually stepped into leadership roles mentoring others. The platform was founded after its creators recognized how few spaces existed where Black men could process grief outside traditional church settings or medical offices. It grew rapidly via word of mouth referrals and helped normalize conversations about therapy among peers, families, and churches alike. Most importantly, it sparked broader dialogue across schools, churches, and policy groups about making healing accessible everywhere, not just behind closed doors. As Maya Angelou wisely said, I can be changed by what happens to me, but I refuse to be reduced by it. The Black Men Healing Platform embodies this spirit of resilience through connection. These examples illuminate a profound truth. When we heal together, we heal more completely. When we restore our connections to each other, to our cultural wisdom, and to our spiritual foundations, we create the conditions for sustainable transformation. This brings me back to Tracie Chandler's unexpected perspective that initially challenged me: the urgent need for our community's healing to be rooted in a return to spiritual connection and collective compassion. In a world that constantly pushes us toward individualistic solutions, this perspective feels revolutionary. But perhaps it shouldn't. Perhaps what feels counterintuitive to our modern sensibilities is actually a return to ancient wisdom that we've temporarily forgotten. As Tracy so powerfully articulated, joy can always return after mourning if we're willing to face our truths together. This is the affirmation we must carry forward. Our healing is bound together. Our joy is multiplied when shared. Our burdens are lightened when carried collectively. So, where do we go from here? How do we translate these insights into meaningful action? I want to leave you with a challenge that will disrupt your comfortable patterns and push you toward authentic connection. This week, bring your full, unedited story, both the pain and the hope, into spaces where you've been taught to fragment yourself, whether that's your workplace, your family gatherings, or your community organizations. What would happen if you refuse to compartmentalize your humanity for the comfort of systems designed to keep us disconnected? Who might find freedom if you let compassion lead instead of competition? What healing might become possible if you reached across the artificial boundaries that separate your professional identity from your spiritual self? I challenge you to become a disruptor of isolation, to become a builder of bridges, to become a healer, not just of your own wounds, but of the collective trauma we carry together. Because the truth is this: we cannot heal alone what was broken together. Our individual wellness is inextricably tied to our collective liberation. And the joy that waits on the other side of our shared mourning is infinitely more powerful than any happiness we might achieve in isolation. The time has come to reject the lie of individual healing and embrace the revolutionary power of collective restoration. Our communities depend on it. Our future demands it. And the wisdom of our ancestors confirms it. Will you join me in this revolution of healing? Will you have the courage to be broken together so that we might be made whole as one? Thank you.